Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. Today, as you can see, I've borrowed the 2021 Honda Ridgeline Sport from my friends at Holmes Honda here in Shreveport, Louisiana. And a lot of the time, about mid-cycle with the vehicle, you'll see some refreshes with maybe some trim or a bumper or something like that. It's not typically as aggressive of a change as we're seeing with the 21 Honda Ridgeline. And the changes should be pretty obvious with this front end. From the front pillars forward, that is where the main cosmetic changes take place. And one of the main changes is that instead of being all-wheel drive or two-wheel drive, a couple of different options, all the Ridgelines, no matter what trim level you choose to purchase, and by the way, here are all those trim levels. You will find all-wheel drive is now standard. That's correct. And you also have the HPD or Honda Performance Development Package available with all trim levels. What exactly does that mean? That means you have the over fenders right here, the trim that basically encompasses the fenders and really goes all throughout the body of the truck. But you also have these very attractive 18-inch bronze wheels. You've got that HPD logo right there on the center caps, and also on the bed sides are the HPD graphics. A very, very attractive look, to say the very least. Now, as far as the front end goes, you're going to see a more rugged look. It's really meant to be more square than it used to be, kind of more of a boxy look, so to speak, the best way I know to describe it, to give the truck a more aggressive stance. But one thing that doesn't change with the Ridgeline for 2021, kudos to Honda in this area. While the truck may look more aggressive, the ride quality still remains comfortable and very enjoyable when compared to a lot of other trucks out on the road. I mean, whoever said that in order for something to be considered a truck that you had to have a rough ride? Definitely not me, and I don't think anybody ever said that. But again, tell me in the comments why you believe this is or is not a truck. Obviously, the Ridgeline rides extraordinarily well, but if you want to take your Ridgeline off-road, it does have good off-roading capabilities. Obviously, being all-wheel drive, that's a tremendous benefit, but you also have an approach, departure, and ramp breakover angle of 20 degrees. It's pretty good. You're not going to have a lot of trouble getting around. In fact, Honda has shown some impressive off-road capabilities of the Ridgeline in some of their videos that you can find all over YouTube. Now, as far as power goes, well, you've got the 3.5 liter six-cylinder here under the hood that puts out 280 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque, and that power finds its way to the ground through the standard all-wheel drive system via a 9-speed automatic transmission. What about gas mileage? 18 miles per gallon city estimated, and 24 miles per gallon out on the highway. Not too terribly bad for a vehicle of this size, a mid-sized truck. But let's talk a little bit more about some of the unique features that you'll find in the bed with the Ridgeline that you won't see on every other mid-sized truck driving down the road. Now, I must say, I do like what you have here on the bed. Of course, there's that HPD logo. Got a checkered flag right there, just kind of signifying Honda Performance Development. Sport logo, and of course, all-wheel drive comes standard on these trucks. Not a lot of trucks out there can boast standard all-wheel drive. And if you don't know the difference between all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive is all the time. Full-time four-wheel drive, basically. Four-wheel drive, you have to choose high or low and manually hit the button or shift into four-wheel drive to make that work. But here are some of the great characteristics I was talking about that set the Ridgeline apart from other vehicles as I put the cargo or the payload and the towing capabilities of the Ridgeline up on the screen for you. You've got the traditional bed right here and the traditional tailgate that folds down, but that's not all you have. Right here is a release that allows you to swing the tailgate out. And in the right situation, obviously that could come in very handy, but that's not all. Yep, you've got 8 different tie-down points here 4 on each side. You've got some great lighting back here. And depending on the trim level that you have will determine some additional features that hopefully we'll be able to show depending on what Holmes Honda gets in the near future. But for now, I'll just stick to what the sport trim level has. But it does have the bed trunk right here. And that's where you'll find the spare tire. And I'll show you in just a minute how that works as far as accessing that, which would be very difficult if you didn't have the tailgate swing open as it does. But the bed trunk is what I call a multitasker. You can store a lot of different items in here, large bags. You might even be able to kind of insert a large ice chest if you wanted to. But this is actually kind of an ice chest in and of itself because you could fill this whole area with ice. And there are dividers available to actually separate this into multiple little areas where you could put different drinks and snacks and just kind of separate things out. And then over here on the left-hand side is the drain plug that allows you to drain the water once all that ice is melted out and let that begin to dry out. So a very nice feature that I've said this before. I'm surprised more truck makers have not picked up on this because I think that is a great feature. And as far as getting to that spare tire, you just undo a couple of wing nuts, you slide that tray out, and then access to the spare tire and the tools to change a tire if you ever need to is very, very simple. So let's hop into the interior and talk about what has changed there. Okay guys, as I hit the push button start here in the Ridgeline, we're going to straighten out those front wheels real quick. There's not a lot of major changes as far as just interior options go. There are a few little changes to the seats. There's some trim changes here around the shifter, but the biggest change that you're going to note, let me turn that fan down just a little bit so we don't blow anybody away with the lapel microphone, is going to be to the infotainment screen. The graphics have changed, and something a lot of you requested. Right here, now you have a knob for turning the radio on and off and adjusting the volume. A very smart move, wise move. Honda heard a lot of you because you talked about wanting that. Of course, you've got dual zone climate control, a lot of connectivity here, whether it's USB or 12-volt power outlet. And there's where, right there underneath the 12-volt and the USB port here in the front, of course, you've got the area where you can store your phone. If you had wireless charging, which is available, that's where it would be. You've got a little storage right here. And of course, you have a few other connectivity options here inside of the console as well, and some space down there, as well as a little storage tray that you can take in or out if you wish to. There is that tray right there for you that you can slide back and forth. Very, very nice and easy to operate right there, and just that little sliding cover for the console. Of course, you've got the armrests here on the seats, and while this isn't the top of the line trim level, as soon as Holmes Honda gets one of those in, we will definitely take a look. You've got your steering wheel mounted controls, and as I look there, I see some features that remind me that I need to list on the screen the safety features, or at least a partial list of what you have with this trim level of the Ridgeline. And remember guys, if you want to know more, there's always a link down in the description of the video to the Holmes Honda website. As long as this truck is in inventory and you click on that link, you're going to get to learn all about this truck and everything that maybe I didn't cover in the video to keep from making it too long. And you do have a reasonable amount of space in the rear for your rear seat passengers. You've got dual air conditioning vents in the back. Now, one of the main things you might want to know that we haven't covered just yet is the ultimate driving experience of the Ridgeline. So let's get out on the road and see exactly how that works. The overall ride quality of the Ridgeline is pretty impressive. And I know I've talked about that earlier in the video, but as I'm driving out here on the road, even though this isn't a rough portion of road by any means, I did drive to our filming location for today's video on a pretty rough patch of road. But as has been characteristic of the Ridgeline for the last several years, well, the ride quality was very enjoyable. And there are multiple driving modes, and I'll show those on the screen real quick because I didn't show that during our interior portion of the tour. So depending on what you want to do and where you want to drive, you have quite a few options there. So I think Honda's done a very nice job in what they've made available as far as the Ridgeline goes. I mean, not really any changes in that area for 2021, but still, it's nice to know what your options are as far as the features and the functionality and the overall capabilities of the Ridgeline. And as far as the cabin goes, it's comfortable. You've got easy access to everything, good visibility, and of course one of the greatest advantages of a mid-sized truck, as the Ridgeline is the fact that it makes it a little bit easier to get around, a little bit easier to get in and out of parking spaces, especially if you have a tight parking space, tight situations, depending on where you live and how things are set up. I know here in Shreveport, Louisiana, we have a little bit larger parking spaces at malls and stores and things like that than you might in larger cities such as Dallas or Houston, depending on where you might go. So you have some advantages in that respect, but if you do live in one of those larger cities and you're driving in a Ridgeline, well, it's going to be a little easier to park than other larger trucks would be, of course. And while the overall acceleration may not be, plant you in your seat type of acceleration, if you drop the gas pedal to the floor, you're going to have situations where you need to accelerate into fast-moving traffic or maybe move around a slower-moving vehicle on a two-lane road, something like that. You're not going to have a problem. In fact, what you're going to discover is that the Ridgeline's overall size, even though it's not large, I wouldn't say, it still kind of is a little deceptive as to basically how fast you're going. You're going to look down at the speedometer and say, oh, I didn't feel like I was going quite that fast, but here we are. So just some of the features and functionality and just the overall driving experience of what it's like to drive the Ridgeline. But I have to say, I really like what Honda has done. The fact that they have put the effort in changing the overall look of the front end to make this look more like a truck. Again, listening to what all of you have been saying as far as what you would like to see change with the Ridgeline over the course of time. And when the next generation of the Ridgeline comes out, I'm very interested to see what Honda ultimately comes up with. But for now, I have to say I give high marks to our current generation of the Ridgeline. I've got to say thanks to my friends at Holmes Honda for loaning me this truck for the day, and all of you for being kind enough to take the time to watch. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.